receive Ramadan from me, in acceptance. So they would make dua before Ramadan would even come around the corner because they want to get that acceptance from Allah Azza wa Jal, right? And they're looking forward to it. This is something that they are eager to experience. Now, something that, this is an example of the early Muslims and how they would look at Ramadan. I remember I was talking to someone a while ago, and this person, we were talking about Ramadan, and they were saying, oh my God, the Ramadan is coming around the corner. I don't want Ramadan to come around the corner. So then I asked the person why. Why don't you want Ramadan to come, to come close? Around the corner? They said, because I'm going to be hungry and I'm going to be fasting. So, subhanAllah, think about that. Some people, everybody has their own different levels. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He helps all of us, But we really need to change our perspective and look at Ramadan as an opportunity, all right? So today, I'm just going to mention certain points that we should really focus on for this Ramadan, right? Some of those really important goals. And the reason why I'm going to mention a lot of narrations from the early Muslims is to really show you the measuring stick, to show you the mark where we're trying to reach. And a lot of the examples we're going to mention, to be honest, we can't reach them. They're just too high for us to reach, but it will set the bar. And it should increase our expectations of ourselves, right? And in doing that, this inshallah ta'ala will lead to us having a higher motivation, to looking at this Ramadan in a different way, right? To looking at how the early Muslims, how did the Sahaba, how did they, what were some of their goals that they had? I'm going to mention, to be honest, we can't achieve those goals. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the different levels of fasting. A lot of people, they understand that when you fast, you're staying away from food, drink, and intimacy with the spouses. Now, that's something that everyone knows. Every Muslim knows that they're not supposed to eat or drink. But fasting is not just about that. In fact, there are many scholars who mention different levels of fasting. For example, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, in his book Ihya Ulumuddin, he rahimahullah mentions that there are 3 levels of fasting. So let's read what he says. He said, "I'lam anna sawma 3 darajatin." He says that know that fasting is of 3 levels. There are 3 different levels of fasting. He mentions that how there is sawmul umum, that there is the fasting of the majority of people, the fasting of the masses, right? And this is people that, perhaps you can maybe translate this as the average fast, the fast of those who are average. Then he mentions wasawmul khusus, and then he mentions the second level is the fasting of those who are special, right? Those who are elite. So we got the regular fasting, right? The average Joe fasting. And this is a fasting that's absolutely virtuous, right? These are all different levels of a virtuous fast. But the different levels increase the virtue as you go up. So he mentions the average fast, the Sawmul Umum. Then you have the Sawmul Khusus, the fasting of the elite. And then he mentions Wasawmul Khusus al-Khusus, and the fasting of the elite of the elite, right? Of the really high achievers. So then he explains what he means by these 3 levels. He says, Amma Sawmul Umum, he says, as for the fasting of basically the average Joes, or those who are just average, the general fasting, he's saying, فَهُوَ كَفُّ الْبَطْنِ وَالْفَرْجِ عَنْ قَضَاءِ الشَّهْوَةِ كَمَا سَبَقَ تَفْصِيلُهُ. He says, then this is the basic fasting where a person is not eating or drinking or fulfilling their sexual desires. That's what everyone basically knows that they have to stay away from. And this is absolutely a virtuous fast in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal, but it's not as virtuous as the next levels. And then he mentions the second level which is higher than the first. He mentions وَأَمَّا صَوْمُ الْخُصُوصِ, as for the fasting of the elite, فَهُوَ كَفُّ السَّمْعِ وَالْبَصَرِ وَاللِّسَانِ وَالْيَدِ وَالرِّجْلِ وَسَائِرِ الْجَوَارِحِ عَنِ الْآثَامِ. He says then this fasting is to keep all of your limbs away from sinning. This is like a higher level of fasting now. So we're not even talking about leaving food and drink. This is like a person is going through this mindset that, you know what, I'm going to stay away from all of these things. This person, and obviously sins don't break the fast, right? But they may diminish the reward of the fast. So the validity of the fast is not affected by general sins. Of course, there are some sins like eating and drinking that will affect the fast. But this is a second level of fasting. This is for those who don't just want to be average in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Right? This is for those who, as Allah says, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ, compete in the good things. Right? So think about, we have to really evaluate ourselves this Ramadan and our goals. We just don't want to be average. I mean, how many Ramadans have we, have passed us by? We want to make sure that this is the best Ramadan. So let's all try to reach the second level. And there's even a level that's higher than that. And then he says, وَأَمَّا صَوْمُ الْخُصُوصِ الْخُصُوص. He says, as for the fasting of the elite, the highest level, he says, فَصَوْمُ الْقَلْبِ عَنِ الْهِمَمِ الدَّنِيَّةِ. He says that this is the fasting of the heart. This is the fasting of the heart from lowly desires. Lowly desires. This is what you're thinking about. This is what you're feeling. You don't even feel like you're trying to abstain, hold yourself back from, desiring things that are from this world, things that have no benefit. Of course, there are beneficial things from this world, but he mentions al-himam ad-daniyya. Those are like the base desires, and then he mentions wal afkar ad-dunyawiyya, and worldly thoughts, where someone is always thinking about the dunya, thinking about the business, the world around them, right? A person just cancels those thoughts and tries to fast from those thoughts. And then he mentions وَكَفُهُ عَمَّا سِوَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ بِالْكُلِّيَّةِ, and to stay away from everything except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the obedience of Allah. This is like the fast of the elite of the elite. So I want us to really, raise the bar of our expectations for ourselves this Ramadan. Right? And let's try to achieve that high level of fasting. Perhaps we've all fasted that umum, samul umum. We've all fasted that level of basically the average fasting. But let's all try to make an effort, right? This should change our mindset that fasting is not just about staying away from food and drink. And even there's a hadith in Bukhari where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به والجهل فليس لله حاجة أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. The Messenger ﷺ said that whoever does not leave off lying and acting upon lies and jahl and being ignorant, right? Being ignorant, right? Acting in ignorance. The Prophet says, whoever does not leave these things off, then Allah has no need for him leaving off his food and his drink. So this shows that leaving off your food and drink, if you do certain things, that may make your fast perhaps worthless in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal if you don't stay away from certain things. Because there's a lesson of fasting, and that should be that you stay away from other things. If you can stay away from food and drink that you need, then you can definitely stay away from sins that you don't need. And then there's also another hadith, and this hadith is in the Musnad of Ahmad, and it's an authentic hadith. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, رُبَّ صَائِمٍ حَظُّهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ الْجُوعِ وَالْعَطَشِ. He said that how there are some people who fast, the only thing they get is hunger and thirst. And then he says, وَرُبَّ قَائِمٍ حَظُّهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ السَّهَرِ. And he says that there are some people who stand up in prayer at night, and the only thing they get is sleeplessness, insomnia. Not insomnia, but let's say, being tired, staying away from their sleep. They're not getting any reward. They're only making themselves tired. And that's because of them not fulfilling, those high levels of fasting. Right? So, we have to, we should always, of course, make sure that we're not eating and drinking while fasting, but let's try to raise our expectations for ourselves. And even the early Muslims, they understood this as well. Maymun ibn Mihran, rahimahullah, from the Tabi'in, he said, إِنَّ أَهْوَنَ الصَّوْمِ تَرْكُ الطَّعَامِ وَالشَّرَابِ. Right? He said that how the lowest level of fasting is leaving off food and drink. So the early Muslims, the Tabi'in, they understood this. Also, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhum, in the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shaybah, there's a narration that's been narrated that Umar radiallahu anhu, he said that لَيْسَ الصِّيَامُ مِنَ الطَّعَامِ وَالشَّرَابِ وَحْدَهُ. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he said fasting is not just from food and drink alone. وَلَكِنَّهُ مِنَ الْكَذِبِ وَالْبَاطِلِ وَاللَّغْوِ وَالْحَلِفِ. He says rather fasting is from kadhib, lying. Also, wal-batil, and falsehood, right? False speech, just, saying false things and doing things that are false. Wal-laghwi, and things that have no benefit, right? Laghu. And he says wal-halif, and making a lot of oaths. Perhaps some people, they suffer from this. They say, wallahi, in every single thing. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, وَحْفَظُوا أَيْمَانَكُمْ, that preserve your oaths, protect them, right? So, of course, we should swear by Allah Azza wa Jalla, but not all the time. Right? Some people swear to Allah, they swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much. And everything that they say, wallahi this, wallahi that, wallahi I have to do this, wallahi I think this. And sometimes they're breaking oaths left and right. Right? So this is something serious. We should value the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. And also Mujahid from the Tabi'in as well, in the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shaybah, there's a narration where he says, خَصْلَتَانِ مَنْ حَفِظَهُمَا. He says that سَلِمَ لَهُ صَوْمُهُ. He says that there are two qualities. Whoever has these two qualities, his fasting will be safe and sound. His fasting will be valid, and there's not going to be any problems with this fasting. If whoever leaves off these two things. All right. So then he says that how these two qualities that you have to beware of if you want your fasting to be fine is al-ghiba, is backbiting, wal-kadhib, and lying, al-kadhib. So we can see that from the early Muslims, from the Sahaba, from the Tabi'een, they've understood that fasting is not just that base level that Al-Ghazali rahimahullah mentions. Rather, there are higher levels as well. So let's just, that's the first thing that I want to mention, is that we really raise the bar with our fasting this Ramadan. And to be honest, if you're at home, you're not around people, it's going to be, a lot more easier to avoid backbiting. Unless you're doing it on social media. Which, to be honest, I advise, if there's anybody here that's addicted to like something like Netflix, for example, or things that have no benefit, TikTok, so a'udhu billah, so many weird things on there, right? Facebook, whatever social media platform you're on, maybe take a, fast from those things as well. That's a high level of fasting, where you're fasting from these, thoughts of the dunya and baseless desires. And that's what these things are really fueling. Not everything on social media is bad, but a lot of it is. I'm talking about those prank videos and all these weird stuff, right? So this is what Al-Ghazali mentioned is the highest level of fasting, where somebody stays away from even things that may be permissible, but they are lahu, they have no benefit. Right, just wasting your time. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that He give us all tawfiq to really reach that high level of fasting. Something else I want to talk about and show you how the early Muslims had goals concerning is the Quran and reciting the Quran. So let's just mention some examples from the early Muslims. So Sa'id ibn Jubayr from the Tabi'een rahimahullah, he كان يختم القرآن في كل ليلتين. He used to finish the Quran every 2 nights. So in one Ramadan, that's about what, 15 times, right? Sorry, no. I believe that's what, 15 times, right? Yes. In every 2 nights. That's Sa'id ibn Jubayr rahimahullah. Also, Al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik كان يختم في كل ثلاث. And he used to finish the Quran every 3 days. Right? That's about 10 times in the entire month. وختم في رمضان 17 ختمة. And he finished one time, I guess he used to do this. He used to finish the Quran 17 times in that month. And also Abu Awana rahimahullah, he said that شهدت قتادة يدرس القرآن في رمضان. He said that how I have witnessed Qatada, the Tabi'i, student of Ibn Abbas. He said I witnessed him teaching the Quran in Ramadan. Also Waki' ibn al-Jarrah, the one who Ash-Shafi'i quotes in that famous line about leaving off sins to improve your memory. Waki' ibn al-Jarrah rahimahullah, it said that كان يقرأ في رمضان في الليل ختمة وثلثا. That Waki' rahimahullah, he used to recite the Quran every night. He used to finish the Quran every night. He used to finish one entire completion of the Quran as well as a third of it. Let's say 30 juz is one completion. He would finish a third of that in addition. So that's about 40 juz every single night. All right. وَيُصَلِّي ثِنْتَيْ عَشْرَةَ رَكَعَةً مِنَ الضُّحَى. And he would pray 12 rak'at of duha, of salat al-duha. And this is something that we should try to do. In Ramadan, it's a month of salah. So we should try to make sure that we're praying salat al-duha in the morning as well. وَيُصَلِّي مِنَ الظُّهْرِ إِلَى الْعَصْرِ. And he used to also pray from dhuhr all the way to asr. Supererogatory prayers that he would do. And right here, we're just going to mention some of the things that Ibn Rajab mentions in his book Lata'if al-Ma'arif. He mentions some very interesting narrations in there. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, he said that وَكَانَ السَّلَفُ يَتْلُونَ الْقُرْآنَ فِي شَهْرِ رَمَضَانَ فِي الصَّلَاةِ وَغَيْرِهَا. He said that the early Muslims used to recite the Quran in Ramadan, and they used to recite it in their salah and outside of their salah a lot in Ramadan. He mentioned كان الأسود, he mentions that how الأسود ibn Yazid, he says وكان الأسود يقرأ في ليلتين في كل ليلتين من رمضان. الأسود rahimahullah used to recite the Quran in every 2 nights. Alright, we just saw a narration that was very similar to that. وكان النخعي يفعل ذلك في العشر الأواخر منه خاصة. And Ibrahim al-Nakha'i from the Tabi'in as well, he used to recite the Quran, he used to do the same thing, finish the Quran every 2 days in the last 10 nights. So he would kick it up, or push himself in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, but Al-Aswad used to do it the entire Ramadan, every 2 days. And then وَكَانَ قَتَادَ يَخْتِمُ فِي كُلِّ سَبْعٍ دَائِمًا. And Qatada used to finish the Quran every 7 days, every week. Every week he would finish the Quran, right? And I know some people who finish the Quran every 2 weeks. I know some people who finish the Quran, every week. So it is something that's possible, right? You read about 4 juz every single day, and you can finish in every week. And then he mentions that how وكان الشافعي إمام الشافعي وكان للشافعي في رمضان 60 ختمة يقرأها في غير الصلاة. Imam al-Shafi'i used to finish the Quran 60 times in Ramadan. وعن أبي حنيفة مثله, and Abu Hanifa would do the same as well. And then he says that how وكان الزهري إذا دخل رمضان قال فإنما هو تلاوة القرآن وإطعام الطعام. He says that Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, the famous muhaddith, right, from the early Muslims, he said that when Ramadan would come, Az-Zuhri rahimahullah would say that this month is only to recite Quran and it's only to feed people food, to give people food and to donate food. And also Imam Malik, it was narrated something very interesting about Imam Malik. قال ابن عبد الحكم ابن عبد الحكم said about Imam Malik, كان مالك إذا دخل رمضان يفر من قراءة الحديث. When Imam Malik, when Ramadan would come, he would run away from reading hadith. Nobody would find him reading hadith and studying and narrating hadith in this time. ومجالسة أهل العلم. And he would be away, he would abstain from sitting down with the people of knowledge. وأقبل على تلاوة القرآن من المصحف. And Imam Malik would recite the Quran from the Mus'haf. Alright, and as also mentioned, قال عبد الرزاق كان سفيان الثوري إذا دخل رمضان ترك جميع العبادة وأقبل على قراءة القرآن. عبد الرزاق mentions that Sufyan al-Thawri, from the early Muslims as well, that when the Ramadan would come, he would leave off all ibadah. He wouldn't worry about any other forms of ibadah except the Quran. And also Aisha radiallahu anha. This is all from what Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala is mentioning. He says, وكانت عائشة رضي الله عنها تقرأ في المصحف أول النهار في شهر رمضان. He says that Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to recite the Quran in the beginning of the day. So right after Salat al-Fajr, as soon as she would finish praying Salat al-Fajr, Aisha radiallahu anha, she would recite from the Mus'haf every morning in Ramadan. So if you want a time that's recommended to read, it's that time. A lot of the time people are sleeping during that time. And nobody's really going to be calling you during that time. So this al-Mu'minin, our mother Aisha, used to do this. فَإِذَا طَلَعَتِ الشَّمْسِ نَامَتْ. And when the sun would rise, right, when sunrise would come in, then she would sleep, right? She would take like a short nap. So if somebody says, oh, it's wrong to take a nap at this time, look at the Aisha radiallahu anha, she used to do this. And there's many other narrations. We can go on and on and on about the numerous narrations that we have of the early Muslims and their attachment to the Book of Allah Azza wa Jal in Ramadan. Now we have a problem. There is a hadith where Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he forbade one of the Sahaba from reading the Quran in a shorter time than 3 days. But that sort of clashes with a lot of the things that we've mentioned. If the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that we cannot read the Quran in less than 3 days, then why were they doing it? Right? If the Prophet, and it's authentic hadith where he forbids one of the Sahaba, he said that do not read the Quran in less than 3 days. In other words, spread it out more. Ibn Rajab, he comments on this. He says, وَإِنَّمَا وَرَدَ النَّهْيُ عَنْ قِرَاءَةِ الْقُرْآنِ في أقل من ثلاث على المداومة على ذلك. Ibn Rajab, he said the Prophet ﷺ only forbade doing that on a consistent basis throughout the year. Right? The Prophet ﷺ didn't mean that, okay, if you want to take advantage of special times. Ibn Rajab continues. He continues and then he says that فأما في الأوقات المفضلة كشهر رمضان خصوصا الليالي التي يطلب فيها ليلة القدر أو في الأماكن المفضلة كمكة لمن دخلها من غير أهلها. Ibn Rajab, he says, as for specific times like Ramadan and the nights of Ramadan where someone is looking for Laylat al-Qadr. And so Ibn Rajab mentions that if you read the Quran in less than 3 days in special times like Ramadan, there's no problem. And he also mentions special places as well. If you want to go into Mecca, for example, if you're from someone who's outside of Mecca and you visit Mecca and you want to recite the Quran in this virtuous city, he says, فَيُسْتَحَبُّ الْإِكْثَارُ فِيهَا مِنْ تِلَاوَةِ الْقُرْآنِ اغْتِنَامًا لِلزَّمَانِ وَالْمَكَانِ. Ibn Rajab, he says that it's recommended for someone to increase even more quicker than reading in 3 days, right? Finish it in 2 days, finish it in 1 day. He says that it's recommended to do that to take advantage of the time and the place. وَهُوَ قَوْلُ أَحْمَدَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَغَيْرِهِمَا مِنَ الْأَئِمَّةِ. He says this is the view of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Ahmad, وإسحاق ibn Rahawayh. This was his view as well. وَعَلَيْهِ يَدُلُّ عَمَلُ غَيْرِهِمْ كَمَا سَبَقَ ذِكْرُهُ. And he mentions, and others have this view as well because of what they used to do in their actions. Those famous scholars that we've just mentioned from the early Muslims, they would only do this because they believed it was permissible, right? So And this is, of course, a very good view that Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala has, that you can read it in less than 3 days for the virtue of it, to get the ajr of the qira'ah and the tilawah. However, to understand it, right, to do it on a consistent basis, this should not be done. But it's only to take advantage of those specific times. Now, you may be thinking like, okay, this makes me feel like a loser. This may, don't think negatively. Rather, this should push you to say, to think that, what, eventually I want to get to that point. Right? I want to put in the work so I can get to that point eventually. Remember, these people did not come out of the wombs, say Assalamu alaikum and open up the Mus'haf and reading, this amount of Quran. No, it took practice. A lot of these people, perhaps they were kuffar or non-Muslims before they've accepted Islam. Many of the Sahaba were mushrikun before accepting Islam. And a lot of them didn't know how to read. The Prophet ﷺ taught them. So you got to reach that particular level that you want to get to. So I think everybody looking at these narrations, hearing these narrations, we should raise the bar for ourselves. Not to read the Quran in 60 times like Imam Shafi'i and Abu Hanifa, rahimahumullah. Rather, we should maybe say you want to finish the Quran once this Ramadan. If you've never done it before, this is an excellent time to do that. So that maybe you can join them in their completion of the Quran. These are people, the early Muslims would finish the Quran multiple times in the month. At least finish it one time. So that you can say that, what? I have joined them in completing the Quran. Try to do that. And I think if you're at home, if you're in quarantine right now, there's an excellent opportunity. A lot of us, this is really a golden opportunity from Allah Azza wa Jal for us to do just that, right? To really meet our goals. So whatever your Quran goals are, try to fulfill those goals. If you don't know how to read the Quran, try to find some content online that can help you. Try to, hire a tutor, for example, to help you learn the Quran in Ramadan. Right? We've just mentioned the narration where Qatada used to teach the Quran in Ramadan. So the early Muslims would do that. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that we follow their example. Ameen. Right? And also, it's not just about recitation, but it's also about understanding as well. Right? It's also about understanding as well. So maybe try to watch some tafsir lectures. Try to read some books of tafsir. And just try to benefit, read the translations. A lot of people say, oh, translations are this or that. No, translations are excellent. Right? And I know that Ustad Farhan, for any of you that tuned in yesterday, he's mentioned a lot of great tips concerning this. My third point of advice is the salah. Try to make sure you're praying 5 times a day. And like I said, if you're in quarantine, this should be easy, inshallah ta'ala. Now, now speaking of Quran, right? We were just speaking about Quran. There's a verse, there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim. The Messenger, he tells us, "Iqra'ul Qur'ana فإنه يأتي يوم القيامة شفيعا لأصحابه." Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Recite the Quran because it will come on Yawm al-Qiyamah as an intercession for its companion." We want to be all the companions of the Quran. So the Quran will intercede for us. Our deeds of recitation. Right, not the sifa of Allah Azza wa Jal, not the actual speech of Allah Azza wa Jal, rather the Quran, our deeds, amaluna bil qira'ah, our deeds of reciting the Quran will intercede for us. Okay. Also, if you pray your salah, this will keep your Quran in check. So many people have memorized the Quran and they want to know, how do I keep the Quran with me? How do I continuously revise it? How do I keep it sharp? People who have memorized Juz Amma, people who have memorized half of the Quran or more than that, it doesn't matter. We've all memorized something. Right? But how do we keep it in check? There's a hadith in Sahih Muslim, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, وَإِذَا قَامَ صَاحِبُ الْقُرْآنِ فَقَرَأَهُ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ ذَكَرَهُ. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the companion of the Quran, when he stands up, when he gets up and he prays, right? And he reads it in the day and the night. He reads it in the day and the night. And this is not just specifically for the salah, but it just means to read it and to have, to give it attention, but specifically in the salah. Specifically in the salah. The Prophet says, وَإِذَا قَامَ صَاحِبُ الْقُرْآنِ, when the companion of the Quran, when he stands up and he reads it in the night and the day, he will remember it. وَإِذَا لَمْ يَقُمْ بِهِ نَسِيهُ, and if he doesn't stand up with it, if he doesn't make qiyam with his Quran, then he will forget it. Alright, so Ramadan is a time of qiyamul layl, right? And sometimes, perhaps we're not regular with this. Some people are not regular with the qiyamul layl. Ramadan is an excellent time to build up that habit so that it can last throughout the month. Aisha radiallahu anha, in the Sunan of Abu Dawud, she says that لا تدع قيام الليل. She was giving someone advice. She said, do not leave off qiyamul layl. Do not leave off praying in the night. فإن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان لا يدعه وكان إذا مرض أو كسل صلى قاعدا. She said that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam never used to leave off the Qiyamul Layl, right? And when he would be sick, or when he would, let's say he wasn't feeling it, right? Kasala. It doesn't mean he was lazy, but let's say we don't want to use that word for Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he wasn't feeling it, right? He wasn't feeling like standing up. She said that he would pray sitting down. So this is a reminder, a reminder for all of us. We're not going to get to go to Taraweeh this Ramadan. Allahu A'lam how it's going to look, or if we're ever going to have that opportunity. But try to pray Taraweeh by yourself at home. And I'm sure that we've been through a lot of Taraweeh throughout the years to know how it's prayed. Right? It's just two rak'ah, it's in units of two, and you can pray however much you want. The Prophet ﷺ would pray 11, right? Pray 10 units of two, and then he would pray one. He would make his witr 3 at the end, or he would pray that one rak'ah at the end. Okay, so this is the best way to do it. Now the question is it best to pray? This is an issue that comes up a lot. Is it best to pray Taraweeh at home, or is it best to pray at the masjid? And surprisingly, the scholars have different opinions on this. But I want to mention one hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, narrated by Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu. Zayd ibn Thabit, he narrates that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had a special room in Ramadan. And in that room, Zayd ibn Thabit, he said that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he prayed there for a few nights, and so some of his companions started praying behind him. They basically came and volunteered themselves to pray behind him. When he came to know about it, he kept on sitting. He didn't pray. Right? He kept on sitting and he did not pray. In the morning, he went to them and then he said that I saw what you were doing and I understood what you did. You were trying to pray behind me. So the Prophet ﷺ, what he said is, he said to them, فَصَلُّوا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ. He said, oh people, pray in your houses. This is Qiyamul Layl, this is Taraweeh in Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that pray in your homes. Pray in your houses. He says, فَإِنَّ أَفْضَلَ الصَّلَاةِ صَلَاةُ الْمَرْءِ فِي بَيْتِهِ إِلَّا الْمَكْتُوبَةِ. Because the best salah of a person is in his house, except for the obligatory prayers. So this is a general principle right here, that the 5 daily prayers are best inside of the masjid. However, every other prayer is best in your house. So that includes Qiyamul Layl and Taraweeh. However, there are some scholars, the majority of the fuqaha, the jumhur, they say that it's better to pray in the masjid. Now, why do they say that? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever prays with the imam until he finishes, he gets the reward of the entire night. Right, he gets the reward of the entire night. However, there are some scholars like Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah and Imam Malik who say that it depends. For some people, praying in the masjid is more virtuous, and for some people, praying at home is more virtuous. In Imam Shafi'i's book he says that سألت مالكا, he said, I asked Imam Malik about a man praying in Ramadan with the people. Right? Is that better, or is it better for him to pray inside of his house? So Imam Malik, he said, إن كان يقوى في بيته فهو أحب إلي. Imam Malik, he said, if he's able to pray in his house, then that is more beloved to me. That's better in my opinion. وَلَيْسَ كُلُّ النَّاسِ يَقْوَى عَلَى ذَلِكَ. Imam Malik, rahimahullah, look at the fiqh of the Imam of Medina. He said that, and not everybody is able to do that. Some people are not able. They don't have the motivation to pray at home. They're not able to pray Qiyamul Layl at home by themselves. So they need to be in a place where there's a community, where there's support, where they're able to pray shoulder to shoulder with their brothers and sisters. So Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, Al-Shafi'i continues in in his very famous work on fiqh. He says, وَكَانَ رَبِيعَةُ وَعَدَدُ غَيْرِ وَاحِدٍ مِنْ عُلَمَائِهِمْ يَنْصَرِفُ وَلَا يَقُومُ مَعَ النَّاسِ. Imam Al-Shafi'i said that Rabi'a and many other scholars, they would pray in their homes. Right? They would pray in their homes and they would not pray with the people in the masjids. And وَقَالَ مَالِكٌ, and Imam Malik said, وَأَنَا أَفْعَلُ مِثْلَ ذَلِكَ. Imam Malik rahimahullah, he says that I do that. In other words, Imam Malik did not pray in the masjid with the people, according to Imam Shafi'i. And Ibn Qudama rahimahullah ta'ala, in his book Al-Mughni, he mentions some different opinions of those early scholars. He mentions قال أحمد, that Imam Ahmad said, كان جابر وعلي وعبد الله يصلونها في جماعة. Imam Ahmad said that Jabir ibn Abdullah, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhum ajma'in, they would pray in the jama'ah. They would pray with the people. All right? And he mentions that, and then he mentions, وَقَالَ مَالِكٌ وَشَافِعِي, he mentions the view of Imam Malik and Shafi'i that it depends. So a person, if you think about this, perhaps your opportunity right now to pray in the home could be more virtuous for you and more rewarding in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. I just want to mention those opinions just so you're aware of it. To show that this opportunity that we're in right now, some people think that, you know what, my tarawih is not going to be accepted. But no. In fact, some scholars say that it's better to pray Qiyamul Layl in your homes. It's better to pray your own tarawih in your homes with your families. That's the point we're trying to make, right? We're not trying to, make cause confusion. We're trying to show that there are some scholars who say that praying in your home is even better. And some scholars would prefer to do that, like Imam Malik, rahimahullah. So we should just, look at this opportunity, not as an opportunity of, of being deprived. Rather, we should be happy that Allah Azza wa Jal gave us this opportunity to pray in our homes. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that لا تجعلوا بيوتكم قبورا. He said, do not make your homes as graveyards, because you can't pray in the graveyard. So pray in your homes. So also another thing that we should try to do is try to understand what we're reading, so that we can at least cry in salah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would cry in his salah, right? And he would cry when hearing the Quran in general. There's a hadith in Bukhari narrated by Ibn Mas'ud, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came to Ibn Mas'ud and he said, "Iqra alay." He said, "Read to me." So Ibn Mas'ud, he said that, am I going to read the Quran to you, O Allah's Messenger? And it was revealed to you. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Inni uhibbu an asma'ahu min ghayri." He said, I love to hear it from others. So Ibn Mas'ud started reciting Surah An-Nisa. And he recited the ayah, فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, how will it be when we bring a witness over every nation? وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. And we will bring you over all of these people as a witness. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this verse is talking about him, that Allah will bring him as a witness over all of mankind. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's mentioned that how, he said, stop. He said, hasbuka, that's enough. He said that's enough to Ibn Mas'ud. And Ibn Mas'ud, he said that فَالْتَفَتَ فَإِذَا عَيْنَاهُ تَذْرِفَانِ. He said that the Prophet ﷺ, he turned and he saw that the Prophet ﷺ, his eyes were tearing, right? He was crying because of what he was hearing. Now, one more thing that I want to talk about is for us to, one of the other goals that we should have is to control our eating. A lot of people, they may think that perhaps Ramadan is a time just for social festivities. I've even heard a lot of people, some people look at Ramadan as just a time where you save up your appetite the whole day and you have a big feast with your family. Some people think that that's what Ramadan is about, but Ramadan is not about that. Rather, there's a lot of narrations from the early Muslims. There's actually one by Ali bin Abi Talib, and this one is a bit, a very severe statement that Ali radiallahu anhu said. He said, "Man kana hammuhu ma yadkhulu ila jawfihi kanat qimatuhu ma yakhruju min." Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, whoever's only, motivation, whoever's only desire is what they put in their mouth or what they put inside of their body, then their value will be what comes out of the body. And I don't think that needs any explanation. But this was a statement, a very famous statement of Ali radiallahu anhu. And this is just to show you that your motivation, especially in Ramadan, shouldn't just be that. Of course, enjoy the good things that Allah Azza wa Jalla has provided. But Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, مَا شَبِعْتُ مُنْذُ أَسْلَمْتُ. Ibn Umar, another one of the Sahaba, he said, I have not eaten my fill since I became a Muslim. All right? And you also had, Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah, he said, إِذَا أَرَدْتَ أَنْ يَصِحَ جِسْمُكَ. Sufyan al-Thawri, from the early Muslims, he said, if you want a healthy body, right? If you want a healthy body, he said that, وَيَقِلَّ نَوْمُكَ. And if you want to be able to sleep less, فَأَقْلِلْ مِنَ الْأَكْلِ. Then eat very little. All right, eat very little. And Imam Shafi'i, he speaks about being full as well, and eating and being overfilled. Imam Shafi'i, he said that الشِّبَعُ يُثَقِّلُ الْبَدَنِ. That being full like this, it makes the body very heavy, makes you feel lethargic and lazy. وَيُزِيلُ الْفَطِنَ. And it makes your intelligence lack. وَيَجْلِبُ النَّوْمِ. And it makes you very sleepy. I think anyone who's been full here, you guys know that it creates that that sleepy feeling that you have. وَيُضَاعِفُ صَاحِبَهُ عَنِ الْعِبَادَةِ. And it makes being full like this makes a person not want to make ibadah. And in Ramadan, this is a time that we need to make ibadah. We need to push ourselves. So, Ramadan, let's try to, let's make this Ramadan different in the way that we're not going to overindulge ourselves. Now, if we're going to have to be staying home this Ramadan, which that's what it seems like, Perhaps you're not going to have the luxury of, going all out, right? Maybe try to budget yourself. Maybe try to, in terms of food, right? Try to make sure that you're spending your time on ibadah and it's not just about the food. And of course, there's a balance. There's a balance. We should try to be together with the family, right? We should try to eat iftar together with the family. That's very important that we come together as a family. I think one of the ways that we can come together as a family is by eating iftar together. Because sometimes when we go to the masjid, it's a brother section and a sister section, where the father is not with with his daughter, he's not with his wife, the mother is not with her son, she's not with her husband, right? So sometimes it may be very different. Now this is a time where families can come together, right? Families can come together. So try to, have a good time at home, right? Try to have a good time with your family members and have some good iftar. And maybe try to cook that food together. Also, Ramadan is a time of sadaqah. It's a time of sadaqah as well. And we saw that narration of Az-Zuhri that Ibn Rajab mentions in his book. Az-Zuhri, one of the early muhadithun, he said, إِذَا دَخَلَ Ramadan, he said, when Ramadan comes, فَإِنَّمَا هُوَ تِلَاوَةُ الْقُرْآنِ, then it is only Qur'an recitation. وَإِطْعَامُ الطَّعَامِ, and feeding people food, right? And giving food. So my advice to everyone here, one of the goals you should have is to reach out to your family members, firstly, and find out those people that are elderly, especially from your family members, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles who are elderly, those who are not able to go out, and it's much more dangerous for them to go out. Try to find out about them, right? Try to make sure that you're looking out for their iftar as well, because they're going to be fasting as well. So try to find out about your family members first and foremost, then to then to your friends. A mistake that a lot of people make is that they go to their friends, this friend and that friend, and strangers, but they leave their own families hungry. So the best sadaqah that you give is to your family members, right? So just try to look out for your family members, and then look out for the community as well. Don't forget the community. There are people out there that are struggling. So if you know of a brother or sister that's struggling, then perhaps give them food for iftar. If your spouse is cooking, if you guys are cooking at home, maybe cook a little extra and drop it by a loved one. Drop it by a family member or a friend. There's a narration in the Sunnah of An-Nasa'i. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that man fattara sa'iman, whoever gives food to a fasting person to break their fast, كان له مثل أجره غير أنه لا ينقص من أجر الصائم شيء. The Prophet ﷺ said that you're going to get the same exact reward. If you feed somebody who's fasting, you give them food to break their fast. When they eat that food, you get the same reward of their fast, and the reward of the original person does not diminish. It is not diminished, right? Nothing is taken away from it. So let's just take this opportunity to really make some goals, right? Make some goals. I highly recommend you guys write these goals down on paper. Maybe, follow some of these goals together with your family members, your friends. Make a group. I don't know, like a group on social media, or just try to make an agreement with your friends. You're going to hold each other accountable to achieve some of these goals that you're making for yourself. My advice. And if you're someone who is worrying about not being able to finish too many things, don't put too many things on your plate. Do not put too many things on your plate. So let me give you an example. If you're someone who's watching this and you haven't memorized too much Quran, you've memorized a couple of surahs here and there, you don't really know too much how to read, then perhaps find a tutor. Find someone who can teach you this Ramadan. And I'm sure that there are many services that people can benefit from. And there are people that perhaps it's a family member or friend that can help you learn. All right? Also, there are programs online. You can listen to Quran recitation online. You can, there's many opportunities online as well. If you're someone, and everybody needs to look at their own selves. Everyone needs to look at their own situation and to make specific goals for their own situation. All right, specific goals for their own situation. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allowed this Ramadan to be a beneficial Ramadan. And to be honest, we can make this Ramadan the best Ramadan that we've ever experienced. And also one of my advices that I'm going to give for myself and everyone here is to do not wait for Ramadan to start to get into gear. Treat your time right now as if it's Ramadan. Right? Treat your time right now as if it's Ramadan. So don't wait till the first of Ramadan, right? Don't wait until like the first of Ramadan and then you're basically chilling and then all of a sudden you want to get into gear, right? This is the exact way that shaitan wants you to, this is the exact mentality that he wants you to have. Where you are like, you know what, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be just like, Imam al-Bukhari. I'm going to read it in this amount of times. I'm going to read the whole Quran in this amount of times of Ramadan. And what happens? Shaitan gets you to, put it off, delay it. And when the first day of Ramadan comes, you open up that Quran, you read the first page, and then you're like, MashaAllah, Surah Al-Fatiha, you finished it, right? Then you go to Surah Al-Baqarah, the second page, Alif Lam Mim. It's only first, 5 pages on that, 5 verses on that page. Anyone who's read the Quran knows what I'm talking about, right? The second page of the Quran is the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. And it's 5 verses there. Somebody might be like, whoa, this is easy. But then when you go to the next pages and they start flipping those pages and looking through the actual book, then they sometimes underestimate the amount that they have to read. So everyone here, make some serious goals for yourself, right? Make this Ramadan different. Make this Ramadan different. So start right now. Start from tomorrow, right? If you find that maybe this is your first Ramadan, I'm sure that there's many new Muslims out there who this is going to be their first Ramadan. If this is your first Ramadan or second Ramadan, maybe try fasting this Thursday. It's coming up. Fast this Thursday, right? Try to fast. The Prophet ﷺ, however, did tell us that do not precede Ramadan, right, by fasting 1 or 2 days before. You shouldn't fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan, unless you have a habit, as the Prophet ﷺ tells us. Now this time right here, some of the tabi'een, like Amr ibn Qais, the student of the Sahaba, it's mentioned, وَكَانَ عَمْرُ بْنُ قَيْسِ إِذَا دَخَلَ شهر شعبان أغلق حانوته وتفرغ لقراءة القرآن. Amr ibn Qais rahimahullah, from the early Muslims, from the students of the Sahaba, this man, that when the month of Sha'ban would come, that's the month that we're in right now, when the month of Sha'ban would come, he would close his shop. And he would close his shop and he would isolate himself. He would make tafarruq. He would isolate himself لقراءة القرآن, so that he can recite the Quran. This tabi'i, I want to stop on this narration. It's very interesting. He would quarantine himself. He would quarantine himself away from his business, away from people, and he would recite the Quran in Sha'ban. He would do the same thing, but it's just there was no coronavirus at that time. Right, there was no pandemic at that time. However, because it was Sha'ban, it wasn't even like Ramadan yet. It wasn't even Ramadan yet. But he would isolate himself from everything, from his business. He would take some time off in Sha'ban before Ramadan. We're in the month of Sha'ban right now. Ramadan is coming after. But in Sha'ban, he would recite the Quran. Why? Because they understood you can't just start on day 1 of Ramadan. The early Muslims, they understood that this was a time, Sha'ban was that time to prepare for Ramadan. Also, another tabi'i, Salama ibn Kuhail, rahimahullah, from the students of the Sahaba, he said, كَانَ يُقال, he said, it used to be said. It used to be said among the people that Shahru Sha'ban, that the month of Sha'ban is Shahrul Qurra, is the month of the reciters. It's the month of the reciters. So this month of Sha'ban, the early Muslims would act as if it was Ramadan. Because Ramadan is the month that the Quran was revealed in. So they understood that if you want to be in tip-top shape for Ramadan, you need to get started right now. So I want you guys tonight, make some goals for yourselves. Unless you have goals already, you've already made up your goals. If you don't have any goals, sit down tonight, get a pen, a piece of paper, and write down your goals. And write down and make sure that you're being very practical about it. If you want to recite I'll give you an example. I think that this is a reasonable goal for anyone who is able to recite the Quran. And that is to finish the Quran in Ramadan. It's not obligatory, it's not necessary, but it's something that we all want to try to go through the book of Allah Azza wa Jal in this month. If you want to do that, you have to understand that the Quran is around 600 pages, right? It's not the longest, it's not the biggest book, but it's not the shortest book either. It's 600 pages. If you want to finish a book that's 600 pages in about 30 days, you need to plan for that. If you're just going to have some idea in your mind that, hey, I'm going to do it, but you don't have any practical plan, then you're going to fail. Right? I think that there's something called the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So follow the 5 Ps, right? Proper preparation prevents poor performance, right? You need to prepare yourself. So, that being said, if the Quran is 600 pages and you got 30 days, let's say 29 days, because Ramadan might be 29. Let's just plan for 30. But keep it in your mind that whatever goal you want to achieve, Ramadan might be 29 days. So what you want to do is you want to divide up that 600 pages by the days. If Ramadan is going to be 30 days, that means you have to read a minimum of 20 pages. 20 pages a day to finish the Quran in 1 month. And I'm telling you, I know people who have this goal and they slack off. They slack off, they play around, and a couple days they miss. Every day you miss is 20 pages. So think about this right now. What you guys could do if you want to start from now, what you could do is you can read, you can try to help like start in Surah Al-Baqarah, or maybe try to find out like which surahs you feel are the hardest. For example, a lot of people they say that Surah Yusuf is very, is a bit more difficult compared to other surahs to recite. So let's say you know Surah Yusuf, it might give you a problem, right? It might take a little longer. So what you do is right now listen to Surah Yusuf a lot or try to practice reading it. So take some, practical steps. It's not enough to say, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I have a dream to do this." No, take some practical steps. So if you need to read 20 pages a day, then do that. Right? Do that. That's what you need to do every single day if you want to finish the Quran in Ramadan, in the whole month. If you want to pray your sunnah prayers, your 12 sunnah prayers, two before Fajr, four before Dhuhr, two after Dhuhr, two after Maghrib, two after Isha. The Prophet ﷺ says, whoever prays those 12, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a house in paradise for him. So we want to get that reward. If you want to start doing that in Ramadan, start right now. Start right now. Don't wait till the first of Ramadan, right? Get into the groove, right? Build the habit now, so that when Ramadan comes, you're gonna smash it, smash those goals, destroy those goals, and fulfill them. All right. Also, like I said, try maybe to fast a couple days and try to implement those higher levels of fasting. That for those days you're not gonna fight your family members, and some of you guys are at home and you're in quarantine, and a lot of fights are happening, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Wives fighting their husbands fighting their wives, kids arguing, and family members just going crazy in the house. And I think one brother told me that how in some countries, Allahu Alam, in China or whatever countries, that they have lockdown, a lot of divorce, like a lot of divorces are happening. A lot of people are getting divorced because they're at home, they're cooped up at home, and they're just fighting. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to protect all of us, Ameen, and to keep our families together, Ameen. But if you implement these fasting, the Prophet said, these high levels of fasting, Allah's Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that how a fasting person, if somebody tries to fight you or argue with you, then say to them, "I'm fasting. Inni sa'im." So fasting is a really great way to keep the family together and to avoid the fighting and the arguing. And once you develop this fasting, even non-Muslims know this. When you stay away from food and drink, when you limit yourself from certain desires, this builds up your willpower, and brings a lot of strength it brings a lot of mental strength, so that you can stay away from a lot of things. You're going to be able to resist a lot of the urges that you normally have. So if your tongue is scratching to say something against your family member, right, to insult them or to curse or whatever the case is, then fasting is something that can help you. So my advice to everyone is try to fast at least one day before this Ramadan coming up, just to, get yourself in the gear of fasting. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He allows us to be ready. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that we make some really good goals and that we're able to achieve them. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He make us sincere, and that's very important, that we make these goals sincerely, not because we want to flaunt our achievements to others, right? Not because we want to go to this person and be like, "Oh, Shafi'i did 60 times, well I did 70 times." No. Right? But it's to really push yourself and to gain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure in this month. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He allows us to reach Ramadan. Ameen. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He gives shifa to all of those Muslims that are afflicted with this virus that's going around. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to protect us and our family members. And we ask Him also to give us the tawfiq to take the necessary measures to protect ourselves. A lot of people are making dua, but they're not being practical about the measures to protect themselves. And that's a mistake, right? Tawakkul is you put your trust in Allah Azza wa Jal, and you also take the steps that will protect you. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to allow us to understand tawakkul and to bless us with tawakkul. Ameen. All right, so I believe we have some questions. Let's see some of the questions that we have. Okay. First question: do you have any suggestions on how to improve relationships with family members during Ramadan? Like I said, eating iftar together, eating suhoor together, right? Also fasting as well, because fasting is going to prevent you, it's going to make you conscious of not arguing with them. I think arguments lead to a lot of, family issues. All right. And this is something that's, it's an unfortunate reality that I know personally of divorces happening right now. I know of personal people that I know on a on a personal basis, divorces that are happening right now because of arguments. So this is something that's serious now. So I think that fasting could help you. Right? It could help you if if it's in your fitrah, your nature. Well, not your fitrah, but if it's in your nature, if it's just the way that you are, that you've developed over time, not the way you were born, right? But if that's just the way you are, like you like to argue a lot, fasting can help you, right? It's going to make you a lot more conscious of that. And also, fasting, what it does, there's a hadith that mentions the Prophet ﷺ tells us that the shaitan flows in the blood of the human being. And the scholars mention that fasting helps you protect yourself against the shaitan. Why? Because it narrows the veins. You don't have as much water running through your system, right? So it narrows the veins. The shaitan, the passageway of the shaitan becomes constricted. From a medical perspective, perhaps there may be some other opinions about that, but the point is, fasting is going to help no matter what. What are some other ways to help with families coming together to improve relationships? I think checking up on them, right? Checking up on them this Ramadan, right? Make it a make it a something that you're gonna, maybe perhaps every single day, call a family member, right? So that you can keep those relationships with people in the house that are already with you. Try to do a lot of beneficial things together. Try to remind each other. Try to do beneficial things together, like reciting Quran together, learning something together for this Ramadan. Also, we have another question. Since it's difficult to visit the sick during this time, what are some deeds that are equal to it? Okay, equal to it, that depends, because you may have a deed that's not equal to visiting the sick, but because of somebody's ikhlas, that deed can be more beloved in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jalla. I'm sure all of you have, you've heard of that narration where the woman went to paradise because she gave a dog some water. We may think of that as something very small, but it's about the ikhlas. So I don't think you should be looking at greater deeds. Of course, there are some deeds that are more virtuous, but perhaps maybe calling them and checking up on them, or checking up on their families. Perhaps that can take the place of, of visiting them, right? Also, we have another question. If I pray Taraweeh in the masjid, is it okay to make a 6 feet gap in the line? So many scholars have mentioned that if it's a situation of necessity, if it's a situation like that we're in right now, where there's contagious diseases, then the salat will be valid. But it's definitely not something that's advisable. So if you're praying at home and nobody has been leaving the house, then pray without a gap, providing that you feel that there's not going to be any danger. If there's somebody that is in a high risk environment, then that's different. Okay. Wallahu alam. Do you mind sharing your Ramadan's personal goals? Okay, sure. Well, okay, so let's just say my goal is to finish as much Quran as I can. Right? That's my goal, to finish it as much, finish reading as much Quran as I can. Right? That's what I'm going to share. Also, one of my goals is to read as much tafsir as I can, to understand the Quran and to increase my understanding of the Book of Allah. And I highly recommend this, that try to also go through the English translation of the Quran as well, right? Not only go through the Arabic reading, but also understand what you're reading as well. That's very important, and I think that's really amazing. A lot of us, perhaps we've never finished the Quran cover to cover in our lives, and this is a perfect opportunity to do just that. Also, we have some more questions. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Do you think that a person should purify himself, reconcile differences with parents, brothers before entering in Ramadan, and expecting forgiveness? May want to reconsider and change himself. Absolutely, absolutely, right? We should try to mend our issues, like mend the relationships that we have with others. If there's a problem, there's somebody who you have a beef with, and you have to be honest with yourself. Some of us, we have problems with others, and we're the villains. We're the villains. I think it was this cartoon character, I think it was Joker. Joker, he said that how we stop look. I'm not quoting Joker as if he's a sheikh, but it's a true statement to some extent. He said that we stopped looking for monsters underneath the beds when we realized that they were within us. So sometimes, we are, the villains in real life, and we don't really realize that. So, like, be honest with yourself and try to look in your situations as objective as you can, and realize, am I really the wrong one in this situation? In that case, call the person, apologize. This is very good advice that this person has mentioned. And if in any case they are the aggressors and you want to forgive them, then you call them and forgive them. Of course, Allah mentions that, Allah mentions, وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا. Let them forgive and let them pardon. أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Do you not love that Allah forgives you? So if you want Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive you, then forgive others as well. And every situation is different, of course. According to the Sharia, how long the masjid can suspend the regular salah? Well, due to this circumstance, the masajid are only suspending the jama'ah because of this situation. So as long as this situation remains, then that ruling will continue to be in effect to protect the people. So it's not as if there's a pandemic going around, then then after like a month the masjid is going to open up when it's going to harm people. No, right? As long as the pandemic is there, to protect the people, it's gonna be closed, right? This is only to protect the health of the people. I believe in the 5th century there was actually one in Egypt, and in also in Spain as well. There was a plague, and there was even this whole year that was considered Amul Ju', right? The year Al-Dhahabi mentions this, right? And other scholars as well, that they also had a pandemic, like an epidemic that they were going through as well. And in that time, for a whole year, the masjids were closed. So this sort of thing has kind of happened in previous Muslim societies as well. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay, don't you think in this kind of situation, virtual tarawih is allowed? I can't really feel it if I pray by myself. Well, to be honest, you cannot pray a virtual tarawih. And this is not just my view. You can look at the fatwa councils, right? Read up what the fatwa councils, what they say, in your countries. Read up what the fatwa councils say about this issue. Can you pray at home when somebody else is praying? They're praying their own tarawih, but it's being recorded. Can you follow them? You don't want to do that, right? So whether or not, whatever any opinions people have, we can all agree that it's best to just avoid it. Okay, so my advice is just to pray at home. And, if you are not feeling it at home, maybe perhaps you don't understand what you're reading. All right, or maybe you don't have the ability to read. Some people have this. This is why some scholars, they say praying in the masjid is better. It's more virtuous. It's because of people who can feel it at home. All right, I know people who prefer to pray at home. It's just everybody's different. Everybody's in a different situation. So I think that if you're in that situation, I don't think you should follow the tarawih. What I think you should do is maybe whatever you're going to read in your tarawih at home, try to read the translation beforehand, right? And if you don't, if you have not memorized a lot of Quran, many scholars say that in tarawih you can stand up and you can hold the mushaf and you can read it. You can stand up and you can hold the mushaf and you can read it. Now, a misconception a lot of Muslims have is that tarawih is obligatory. Tarawih is not obligatory. It's not an obligatory prayer. Okay, it's not. Like some people, they think that like when Ramadan comes around, some people don't pray the 5 daily prayers, but they go to the masjid to pray tarawih, and that's a problem, right? Many scholars, like one scholar, he was saying that the sweat on your head walking towards Salatul Dhuhr in the Jama'ah, in the masjid, is better than praying in the night, because that's something obligatory. Obligatory deeds are better than recommended deeds. And recommended deeds are virtuous as well. All right. So that's my advice. And to be honest, some people perhaps they might have it difficult because they need that community support. And I think perhaps maybe listening to a lot of Quran. And also there's other things that you could be doing in the night as well. You can try to read the Quran yourself. You can make a lot of dua. All right. If you don't, like if you're praying Taraweeh and you don't know a lot of surahs to recite in the standing position, then when you go into sujood, make it long. When you go into sujood, make it long and make a long dua. Right? Let your salah be long in the sujood. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said he said أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ وَهُوَ سَاجِدٌ, that the closest the slave of Allah is to Allah Azza wa Jal is when he's in sujood. So That's my advice, right? Maybe just read the surahs that you know, even if it's ikhlas. Even if you're reading قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدْ every rak'ah, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, do it. Do something, right? And I think that inshallah ta'ala, this can be a means of motivation as well. And they can show you that you're capable of doing it. Where you, even if you're reading very short surahs in every rak'ah, you pray 11 rak'ah, 11 rak'at in the night at home with your family members. That's a huge accomplishment. And do not look down on any good. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. Never look down, never belittle any good. Never belittle any good act. Any good act. We also have another question. What is the ruling on making dhikr or dua in the bathroom? So this is a matter right here. Many scholars, they've mentioned that it's something that's makruh or disliked. The Prophet ﷺ, he abstained from speech. There was a man who gave him salam. He said assalamu alaikum, and the Prophet ﷺ was in the bathroom. And the Prophet ﷺ, after he got out, he told the man that if you give me salam in this state, I will not respond to you. And salam is the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Assalamu alaikum is an ibadah. So, many scholars have mentioned that it should not be done. And even the Prophet ﷺ, there's one narration, it's in Abu Dawud and Nasai, Tirmidhi, and Ibn Majah. And it's a disputed hadith. Many scholars mention that it's Hassan. Though the Prophet ﷺ, hadith of Anas, when he would go into the bathroom, he had a ring that had Allah's name on it. And he would remove that ring when he would go into the bathroom. So, so many scholars have mentioned that it's makruh, is disliked to mention Allah Azza wa Jalla's name in the bathroom. All right. And this was the view, this is the view in the Hanbali madhab as well. All right. Also, we have another question. Yes, and mentioning Allah Azza wa Jalla's name is disliked in the bathroom as well. Right. And this is, this is a means, the bathroom is a place of filth, right? It's a place of shayateen. The Prophet ﷺ said that these bathrooms are muhtadara, that they are, occupied by evil things. And so mentioning the name of Allah Azza wa Jalla in that place is not befitting. However, if you come out of the bathroom, then it's no problem. Wallahu a'lam. All right, do we have any other questions? Any other questions? Let's see, I think we have a comment. We have this person that has made a comment. They've said everyone should set a Ramadan goal. We should use, social media apps where everyone is in a group and they can, set their personal goal. That's a very good recommendation, right? That, like I said, make some, groups with your family and friends, and you can share with each other your goals. All right. We have someone has made a comment as well. She said that my goal, inshallah ta'ala, is to finish memorizing Surah Mulk in Ramadan. Excellent. Absolutely. That's a beautiful goal right there. Awesome. So Surah Al-Mulk is actually 30 verses. So if you memorize a verse a day, which is not a lot, one ayah a day, you'll finish Surah Al-Mulk in that month. Right? That's a very beautiful goal. Goals like that, that's what I'm talking about. Right? Goals just like that are practical, that are doable. It's not too much for you to do, and it's very beneficial. All right, so Allahu Alam, I don't know if you have any other questions. Do we have any other questions? Let's see, let's wait.
Good. Jazakallah khair. Maghrib time is coming.
All right, so inshallah ta'ala, we will stop for Salat al-Maghrib. And I hope you guys have benefited from this. I definitely benefited from this. So inshallah ta'ala, we're going to stop here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. أياما معدودات، فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر، وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين، فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له، وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه، ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة